Your SA is still in the hands of Airbnb, and you're actually leaving thousands of pounds on the table each year. And the crazy part, Airbnb actually wants it this way. I've helped tens of other Airbnb entrepreneurs to solve their issues of profitability and maximizing their revenues in order so they succeed in their Airbnb business. But my question to you is, if you could increase your Airbnb's profitability by 15 to 20% without raising the prices, would you do it? It took me 6 months to realize, but my Airbnb business was actually missing out too. And I was missing out on so much money. And it's bizarre because 90% of these hosts keep making this mistake. So by the end of this video, you will know exactly how direct bookings can massively improve your profitability on Airbnb and how to actually execute on this. You will be able to adopt and implement these 4 strategies to increase your direct bookings within your Airbnb business. I'll also give you a bonus tip at the end of the video for another strategy that we implement alongside direct bookings that can help increase your profitability. These are the methods that we have used ourselves to scale our business to 150k a month and also help our students use to maximize their profits on their Airbnb properties. So, I want to give you some context to begin with and break down the costs of Airbnb to show you what your profitability is looking like at the moment. But let me tell you how I learned about direct bookings the hard way. When I started this business with my mum, the profit we were earning was pretty decent, but it could have been a lot better. I thought the issue was me originally. We put a lot of investment into properties we had, trying to make them look nicer so we can charge higher prices. And to an extent that was successful, but the issue was that yes, our profit went up in terms of physical pounds, but the profit margin stayed exactly the same. You see, there are costs to this business. Rent, which you can't really decrease, bills, which you can't really decrease that much, and the Airbnb fee, which you can't decrease. But this is where everything changed for me. What I realized is that no, you can't decrease the Airbnb fee, but you can actually just remove it altogether. The common misconception is that when you think about short-term accommodation, you think about Airbnb. This is what I used to do. I used to tell them I had an Airbnb business, but actually really what I have is a serviced accommodation business. Reinforcing this idea of Airbnb made me think, and other people think, that the only way you could book and make money through Airbnb was through Airbnb's platform. After learning these 4 strategies, it completely changed the way my business worked. And yes, it actually increased our profitability by 15%. But why are Airbnb's fees so damaging to your serviced accommodation business? I'll prove it to you with these real figures. So let's use this example. In this property, we collect £3,400 in revenue a month. That's all well and good, but obviously the revenue does not equal the profit. You will see a few hands are dipping into the revenue and chipping away at that profit. So let's say the rent on this, we pay £1,450, with bills and council tax amounting to £300, that's already £1,850 out of our business. Now, we pass on the cleaning fee to the customer and we don't absorb it. This is because, say we have 10 bookings, that's going to be a sore month in terms of paying our cleaners. It's a simple thing that people don't mind paying and it helps us out a lot. But what I'm about to describe is actually the biggest issue that we have. Airbnb takes a fee amount to about £510. This leaves us with a total profit of £1,040. As you can see, despite finishing with a decent little profit, we could do more. With the strategies I'm going to tell you about in this video, we will be able to get an extra £510 back from Airbnb. What does Airbnb actually charge? Airbnb charges a 15.5%, it's now just gone up, fee to hosts, plus VAT. So let's say you charge £100, Airbnb is going to take £15 or £18 off that cost, and you would only receive £85 to £82. So it's not a fun thing to pay. But what I'm going to explain to you next is our dream outcome where Airbnb is out of the equation. Let's now imagine we could get rid of this fee of around 15%. What would that do to your business? If we got rid of it on our properties, it would take our profitability from £1,040 to £1,550 per month. It may not seem like a life-changing amount, but if you do 510 across 53 properties, that's 25k a month. Spanning across 12 months of the year, that's 306k a year we are paying on Airbnb fees. Obviously that's on the extreme end. If every single booking could be direct, I'd be the happiest man alive. But being realistic, we still have some degree of dependence on Airbnb for the business, as we do now. I'm not saying direct bookings are hard or impossible to come by, but it's definitely a challenge to get that to 100% of your properties occupied 100% of the time through direct bookings. It does happen though. We operate a building which has 8 rent-to-rents, and a few months back, we secured a massive deal worth about 100k for 2 months occupying 14 flats of our portfolio. It's pretty nuts. You might be watching this and you wouldn't even have realized that direct bookings were actually an option for your property. This is just one of the things we teach inside the Airbnb Mastery program, alongside a whole list of strategies that all of our students use to make sure they can maximize their revenue and they've got profitable Airbnbs. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that direct bookings might not have to be 100% of your revenue, but even if it's 30 or 40%, that's still going to put you in a much better position than getting 100% of your revenue through Airbnb and incurring a 15% fee on all your bookings. But what if I told you, instead of Airbnb exploiting us, we can exploit Airbnb? I hope they don't see this video. I see Airbnb as the top of funnel. Your guests are going down the same pipeline. It's a simple psychological game. They go on Airbnb because they know they'll be rewarded with an Airbnb that's nice, but also reliable in terms of the prices they pay, the state of the property, and the service they get in terms of what Airbnb provides for guest protection, insurance, etc. What I'm going to explain to you is the secret second pipeline that exists. One thing that direct bookings depends on is your reputation. It's important because if they've had a bad time at your Airbnb, they are not going to even think twice about booking it again with you through Airbnb, let alone direct. This initial stay is super important between you and the guest as it sets the standard of your property. So with that in mind, instead of treating Airbnb and Booking.com like a hosting platform, you should be treating them like a segment of your sales funnel. This means that the physical platform of Airbnb and Booking.com is your guest's introduction into your business. What you need to do now is exceed their expectations. Give them the best possible experience. Now that you have had a successful first interaction with them, the guests have left the property and they are going to be happy. Now, how do you push them into the next stage of your pipeline to get them to book direct? This is where you should follow up with them. Encourage them to stay again, but at this time you're taking them off Airbnb and getting them to book direct. How do we do this? We ask guests to fill in a form before they stay. We ask them whether they're staying for business or leisure and whether they're going to be back in the area again for the next 3 months. If they're going to stay in the area for the next 3 months, these are our prime guests and targets in terms of following up and generating more direct bookings. You can do this yourself, but we have a dedicated member of our team who follows up with bookings to make sure we get more direct bookings. In return, they get an added commission to incentivize them also, so that everyone wins and we make more money. That's not the only way you can get more direct bookings though. Did you know that more service accommodation platforms exist and you don't have to do everything through Airbnb and Booking.com? Airbnb and Booking.com open you up to customers like families or groups of friends. These are great for the holiday season and weekend stays. Of course, you can still get professional bookings like contractors who usually stay a lot longer than just the weekend. But what if I told you this isn't the only way to get these long-term bookings? TradeStay and other service accommodation platforms like Situ pass your bookings from customers like employees, tradespeople, contractors, insurance companies, etc. What's great about this is that these people stay for a long time, and if there's a project happening locally and they need accommodation, your service accommodation is going to be perfect for them. They have a place to stay while you have 100% occupancy rates. This links to my next point of building relationships. Getting bookings through platforms that provide you guests that are more business-minded will help you form relationships. If you can provide an excellent level of service to these businesses that stay with you, you have now formed a relationship with them. Building a trustful relationship between businesses is very, very beneficial. The reason being is that they are more likely to stay with you again, but next time you can contact them directly rather than stay through a platform. That's why building relationships is so important in this industry. My next strategy is quite an obvious one, but so many Airbnb hosts overlook it. It's building a website. This is quite overlooked by a fair few Airbnb hosts as they depend on Airbnb and don't even know where to start when it comes to building a website. What you need to focus on here is SEO optimization. Essentially, search engine optimization is what it stands for. Optimizing your website to cater for guests that want to stay in your property. As a basic example, you aren't going to have a website stating that you have accommodation. You're going to say things like service accommodation in Leeds, like we do. By narrowing down and being precise as possible to the perfect way is the way to be seen on the internet and rank higher above thousands of other websites. Now, remember when I told you that Airbnb acts as a top of funnel element? The next strategy doesn't need the guest to stay in the first place. But what if I told you that Airbnb's listing itself can get you more direct bookings? If you look here, you will actually see that our profile picture isn't a picture of me and my mum, it's actually a picture of our business logo. And not only is it a picture of our business logo, but underneath you will see we have our contact information. This is a great way to make people aware of your brand and make connections with customers so that they can find you and book with you direct. So we've covered Airbnb, top of funnel, other SEO platforms, website development, and booking through our profile picture. So now you know exactly how to increase your direct bookings into your business. I want to give you one more revenue boosting tip. This is implementing damage waivers to your bookings. Let me explain this. Damage waivers are essentially like insurance. We take non-refundable waivers from guests, generally £60 per stay, and they can sign that if they do any damage up to £300, they will not be charged. Now, the great thing is 99.9% of guests never do any damage, which means that this £60 that they are paying you for insurance is pure profit. Now, you may ask, why do guests do this? Because people want peace of mind. They like knowing that they are not going to be charged for anything else if they have an accidental slip up, they mess something up with a towel, the bed linen, etc. Because some Airbnb hosts have a reputation of charging for these types of things. So they want the protection and we want the profit. It's a win-win. To conclude this video, I've shown you how you need to improve your listing's profitability and get at least 20% more profit margins. This is just a droplet of information all my students get inside the Airbnb Mastery Program. But if you want to learn more on how to do Airbnb for free, watch the next video.